Next tonight, Derbyshire's police commissioner is urging social media companies to help her force prevent serious crime. Nicole Unduini-Roberts says the algorithms on some platforms are desensitising some young people to violence and radicalising others. Our social affairs correspondent Jeremy Ball reports.
A social media video that cost a Nottingham teenager's life. This was Larico Steed taunting a rival gang. And this is the man who killed him. It's 7 years since Larico was stabbed to death after being lured into an ambush on Snapchat. Derbyshire's police commissioner is also worried about how digital devices are being used to exploit children and stalk people, but she's convinced that social media can be part of the solution too.
The challenge with algorithms and actually how that can desensitize young people to violence, even from a young age. How can we tackle that? It could be, for example, that there are young men that are coming through our violence reduction unit. Why is that? Is that similar trends in terms of what young men of that age range are seeing on your platforms? Is there anything we can do about this so that they're not being fed, anything that is negative consistently?
The outbreak of violence last summer was fueled by anger on social media, digital devices driving dangerous threats. And this man was jailed for trying to make a deadly bomb at his home in Derby. Munir Mohammed used Facebook to plot an attack for the so-called Islamic State. He's one of several Islamist and far-right extremists arrested here in the East Midlands, whose social media activity led to terrorism convictions.
We don't want it to get to a point where we've gone down the route of something that could have been prevented. With terrorism, you would get people targeting people and educating them from wherever they were. And now we have so much access online, people are educating themselves. They don't need someone to find them. And I had mentioned that I had spoken to Snapchat and gone to a meeting there, and I just welcome those conversations where we can keep people safe online.
The Commissioner's convinced that social media data could be a powerful tool in policing emerging threats, but she knows that first they'd need to allay serious concerns about surveillance and privacy.
Well, Jeremy's here in the studio. Let's pick up on that last point about privacy, because that's what people really worry about, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course there is a real tension here, Sarah, because for the police, the state is a real goldmine. But, the tech firms live and die by how safely they keep our private data. Now, there may be ways to square this circle. First of all, a lot of that harmful content actually gets posted publicly. The problem is finding it. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack sometimes. So, are there ways the social media companies could help the police track it down? The Commissioner also thinks there might be ways to use private data without identifying people.
So how did they do that then?
Well, the police obviously can't snoop around our private accounts, but the tech firms can still use this personal data to identify patterns. So, are there certain groups of perpetrators that are being influenced by the same content? Could changing the algorithms help tackle that? She's also thinking about victims of crimes like domestic violence and whether this data might really help the police to target the people that they need to protect.
It's interesting, isn't it? And social media firms, they're facing tougher laws, aren't they?
Yeah, something called the Online Safety Act is coming in. You might have heard of that. Now, this is going to make tech firms much more responsible for their users' safety, particularly protecting children and removing illegal content. Now, some social media firms say they have already introduced extra protections, but if they don't comply, they could end up being blocked in this country. The independent regulator could also impose huge fines, up to 10% of their worldwide revenue. Just imagine the fireworks if that happened.
Yeah, it would be a lot, wouldn't it? Jeremy, really interesting. Thank you so much.